My name is Julius H. Taylor. I was born in Cape May, New Jersey in 1914, February the 15th, 1914. That makes me 95 years old today. At my early age, before school, we moved to Cape May Courthouse. I went to Middle Township High School, graduated in 1932. Then in my senior year in high school, I decided I wanted to play the trumpet. So I bought a trumpet and they organized a high school band. So I learned it very fast and I got a job the next year in a nightclub in Cape May, New Jersey. Now let me tell you how I got to college, because I wasn't even thinking about going to college. My girlfriend, Patricia Spalding, was the daughter of one of the first residents of Whitesboro, New Jersey. And I really, just as I met her, I decided this is the woman I want to marry. Whatever I have to do to marry this woman, that's what I'm going to do. So she said she had never heard me play the trumpet, so I said, I'll pick you up tonight and take you down to Cape May so you can hear me play the trumpet. So I picked her up and took her to Cape May and got a seat by the bandstand, and we played. So during the evening, I noticed she was talking to some girls on the table next to her. So on the way back, I said, what were you girls talking about? She said, we were talking about the fact that you have to get a new job. I said, oh no. I said, I love to blow this horn, and this is what I want to do the rest of my life. She said, but it's not going to work out. I said, what do you mean it doesn't work? It's not going to work out. I don't see anything wrong with it. She says, oh, there's something wrong with it. I said, what's wrong with it? She said, one of those girls said, I'm going to take that trumpet player home with me tonight. And that was the end of my music career because I wanted to marry this woman. So then I went to Morgan State University, and I was there for 50 years. And a funny thing happened. I think I did something that nobody else on the planet did. And it was this. I had 9 black students to go on and get doctorate degrees during my tenure. I don't think anybody else in a small undergraduate college like Morgan State College at that time had produced 9 black PhDs in physics. So when I went to Morgan, they only offered one course in physics. So I said, well, I'm going to have to start a physics department. All the other departments were established. So I went over to Hopkins and talked to the head of the physics department at Hopkins and told him I wanted a couple of graduate students to teach a couple of my courses, undergraduate courses. And I got some Hopkins students to come over to Morgan and teach. You'd be surprised, when I first went to Morgan College, I had more physics equipment in my high school than they had in Morgan State College. And I looked at that stuff, it was all in the closet. So I told my wife, I said, we got to get out of here. I said, you know, I want to do some research. She said, I want you to stay at Morgan College because my brother is here and he's head of the chemistry department. And I think you can make a difference. Well, I stayed. I'm glad I stayed because I don't think some of those students might have gotten doctorate degrees somewhere else. But the fact that I was doing research and nobody else on that campus was doing research in 1949, but I was doing research. I was in solid state physics, and you know, that's computers, television, it's everything, solid state. No more vacuum tubes. In fact, while I was at the University of Pennsylvania, the ENIAC, the computer was developed. It was in a room a little bit bigger than this room, and it was all filled up with vacuum tubes. Now that hand calculator does 1,000 times more than that whole room did. And they had a man going around all day replacing tubes for burning out. They would send me crazy people, say, go see Dr. Taylor. Well, he came to me and he said, I'm having a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, they're listening in on my wavelengths. I said, you're kidding. He said, oh, they're listening on my wavelengths. I said, well, man, we can handle that. He said, we can? I said, yeah, we can easily handle that. He said, how are we going to do it? I said, all you have to do is to change your wavelength. He said, why didn't I think about that? But see, when I came along, black kids just didn't deal with physics. They just didn't deal with physics. Yeah. But, well, I always loved it because I made one of those old radios that you take a piece of galena and put a needle down on it and put some earphones on, and you can get maybe one station. Have an aerial wrapped around a oatmeal box. I did all that stuff when I was coming up. But I think one thing helped me was the last job I worked on with my father. My father was a concrete contractor. And the last jobs I worked on, I remember, was building some steps in about halfway between here and Cape May Courthouse. So it was me, my father, and 2 other men. And I said, Pop, we don't need those other men. I said, I can mix the mortar, and I can bring you the brick, and so you can lay the bricks, and we can build the steps. So my father looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, did you have breakfast this morning? I said, Papa, you know I had breakfast this morning. He said, well, you see those 2 men over there? I said, yeah. He said, they don't have any food in the house. They didn't have any breakfast. You know? And that made me think about other people rather than myself, you know? So I think all my life, I sort of, they call me the patriarch of the family. Always trying to help somebody. Because you wouldn't believe this. Oh, you can believe it. There was a druggist in town named Dr. Corson, we called him. And he liked me very much. And I worked around this, mixed up stuff for him and cleaned up the office and the drugstore all the time. So he says to me one day, right after this girl told me about going to college, he said, you know, you don't have to do that hard work your father's doing. He said, you can go to college and you can enjoy the American dream. I said, I didn't even know what the American dream was, you know. So he gave me, in 1933, that druggist gave me $50. Do you realize what $50 was in 1933? I went to college with, at $50, my trumpet and a suitcase with 1 suit in it. So I put my money, $50 up there, and the purse star looked at it and looked at me and said, Mr. Taylor, he says, this doesn't meet your initial payment. I said, I know that, sir. He said, well, how are you going to go to college? I said, I'm going to work. He said, what can you do? I said, I can do anything. You name it. He said, can you typewrite? I can do 40 words a minute right out of high school, you know? So I told him, yeah. So he said, well, we'll give you a chance. I worked my way through college, all 4 years. The trumpet led me play. We had a little band. We played around at Cheney State Teachers College, Westchester Teachers College, and church socials and things like that. We made a lot of money for spending money and books and things like that, you know. And I made it through. Then when I went to the University of Pennsylvania, I got a Rosenwald Fellowship, and that was very interesting. I was a very good golfer. I have about 50 trophies in my cellar, but I can't golf much anymore. The guy said, when you squeeze out the toothpaste, you can't put it back in. It's gone. Well, I tell everybody now, open your Bible to Micah 6:8. You can remember 6:8 about Kennedy and Martin Luther King and all things happened in 1968. In fact, my son graduated from college when he was in 1968. But if you read Micah 6:8 and you live the way, what it really says is, this is what God expects of us to do. The main thing is to be truthfully in all your endeavors. Now, if you do that your whole life, you know what I mean? If you do that and have mercy and walk humbly with your God. And I tell everybody, I said, you know, if you do those things and try to do the best you can doing those things, I said, you'll be surprised at the good things that'll happen to you. That's my philosophy about life.